ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुन् श्रीयुतापदाकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं स्वावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपीशा गोपिका राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Shashwin, for that wonderful Mangalacharan recital. Today we have Shyamanand Krishna Das Prabhuji with us, and we are so grateful that he comes so diligently on every Sundays and sets the mood for us for the upcoming week. So Prabhuji, we are very grateful to you. Please accept our Dandvat from everybody. On behalf of everybody on this group, accept our humble obeisances. Prabhuji, we are reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we are on chapter 7. And the text for today is 16, text 16. Prabhuji, you lead and we will follow.
Okay, Kirti, thank you very much. I'd like to, Hare Krishna to all the devotees. We accept my obeisances of Grace Chila Prabhupada. So, Kirti, the way I generally do, I want to connect this verse with what's gone before. So I'll talk a little bit about how this verse fits in with the chapter and the theme and what have you. And then when we come to the verse in that discussion, then I'll chant the Sanskrit. So that's generally the way I do it. Is that okay with everyone?
That's perfect, Prabhuji.
Because the thing is, it's more helpful if we understand the verse in the context of the other verses. It's more meaningful then than if we just read the verse and the purport. If we get the connection with the rest of the verses, then it's actually more meaningful and we can go deeper into the verse. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of 7th chapter and explain a few things, and then we'll come forward and we'll discuss how this verse fits in with the general discussion in the 7th chapter. The 7th chapter is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. The 7th chapter arises because in the first 6 chapters, Krishna has been discussing the yoga ladder, different stages of yoga practice, different types of yoga practice, which can be likened to an ascending ladder. A ladder is a device which gets you from one level to another using different rungs. So in the first 6 chapters, we've studied that, Karma Kanda, 2 kinds of karma yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and finally, in the last verse of the 6th chapter, actually, in the second to last verse, Krishna says you be a yogi. That's the best thing. Rather than be a fruitive worker or a mental speculator or a tapasvi, actually better to be a yogi. Try to link with me. That is the best. And then in the last verse of the 6th chapter, Krishna says, the one who takes shelter of me within himself, always engages his mind in thinking of me with great faith and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and the highest of all. That is my opinion. So of all the kinds of yoga, bhakti yoga is the best. And the reason for that is bhakti yoga is the only way we can actually get out of the material world. The others are stepping stones coming to that level. So this is how the 6th chapter ends, and it begs the question that if this kind of yoga is so wonderful, then how do we become a bhakti yogi? How is that possible? So then Krishna begins to discuss that in 7th chapter. It's so important, he doesn't wait for Arjuna's question, actually. Normally we find that there is some discussion and then Arjuna asks a question. But here there is no question because it's so important that Krishna just launches into it. How can we become a devotee of Krishna, actually? That is the most important thing. So therefore Krishna is explaining in the 7th chapter, and he tells Arjuna, I'm going to tell you, you listen, you hear from me. And that is the principal way that we get to find out about spiritual life, especially in the beginning. We have to hear from authoritative sources, from Sri Krishna and his pure devotees. And in Bhagavad Gita, we're especially fortunate that not only can we hear directly from Krishna, but we also have Sri Krishna's pure devotee in the form of Srila Prabhupada, who is explaining to us the depth of the verses through his purports. So we're especially blessed that we can do that. So Krishna says, you hear from me, and I'm going to tell you everything about the numinous and the phenomenal, the phenomenal world, the material world, and the numinous world, the spiritual world. And he also says that actually one who understands about me by hearing is actually very rare. It's very difficult to understand completely about Lord Krishna. But we get that opportunity because Krishna is directly instructing us. So that's very wonderful. So then Krishna, as he promised, he said, I'm going to tell you about the material and the spiritual world in terms of how it relates to the place we're living. Krishna begins in 4th verse by telling us that there are 8 separated material energies, which we know as the 5 gross elements, earth, air, fire, water, ether, like that. And then there's also the subtle material elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So Krishna says these are the material elements. And then there's another energy of mind in the 5th verse, which is the superior nature. It's spiritual nature, actually, but we're very tiny. So therefore, Krishna says that nature is superior. And then he says, there's the living entities, there's the material nature, and everything we see in this material world is arising from these 2 energies of Lord Krishna, the inferior and the superior. And Krishna is the origin, the maintenance, and dissolution of those two natures, the material and the spiritual. And then he says, that in this discussion, he says that actually everything is resting upon me. He says, I am the supreme truth. There is no truth superior to me, and everything is resting upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So this is Krishna. He's the source of everything. He maintains everything and brings about dissolution as well. So Krishna, in one sense, is everything. So in the next few verses from 8 to 12, Krishna explains how we can see him in the material nature, because we can't see that. Krishna's everywhere, actually, but we can't see that. And the reason we can't see is because we're covered by the material nature. So Krishna begins to explain to us how he can be seen in the material nature. The taste in water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om and the Vedic mantras, the ability in man, the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. So many things he's explaining there. So if we look into the material nature, if we have the right eyes, we can see that Krishna is behind everything, the original fragrance of the earth, sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So many things. Krishna is the essence of everything, actually. When we look at something, we want to see its glories on the deepest level. That is actually Krishna. Even something as simple as the taste in water or the ability in man, that's on the other end of the scale. Man is so clever. You put a few dozen engineers in a building together for a couple of years and then come up with a cell phone, which is all singing and dancing and even makes toast. So all that ability is coming from Krishna, actually, that ability, the light of the sun and the moon, on which we depend so much. is coming from Krishna. So this way, Krishna is educating us about how he's present in the material nature everywhere. So in this discussion, the question arises that if Krishna is everywhere, why can't we see him? So in the 13th verse, Krishna explains that. He says, the reason that you can't see me is because you're covered by the material nature. Our consciousness is flowing in the material, and therefore we are captured by the modes of material nature, and we can't see Krishna in the same way that an actor is hidden behind the curtain. Just like that, someone has to draw the curtain to see the actor. So similarly, we are covered by the modes of nature, and therefore we can't see. And then in the 14th verse, Krishna explains actually that if you surrender to me, so the material energy actually, first of all, is Duratyaya. It's very difficult to overcome. Actually, Prabhupada is very kind when he says it's very difficult. On our own, it's actually impossible. We can't overcome that because it's Krishna's energy and we're very tiny. So if our consciousness flows in the material, we are overcome by that material nature. We can't get free on our own, actually. Duratyaya, this material nature is very difficult to overcome. But if one surrenders to me, Krishna says, it's very easy. That ocean of the material nature, which is likened to an ocean. How big is an ocean? It's enormous, actually. Even if you're the greatest swimmer, if someone drops you from a helicopter into that ocean, you won't survive very long, actually, even if you're the greatest swimmer. But if we surrender to Krishna, then it's pointed out by Rupa Goswami, he says that you can cross over that water as easily as you can cross over the water contained in the hoof print of a calf. So that's about that big. So this is the trick to surrender to Krishna. So this is the discussion. So therefore now when we're talking about surrender, then Krishna begins to talk about those who don't surrender and those who do. Some people never surrender to Krishna, and some people begin devotional service under different circumstances. So these are the two verses we're studying. First of all, Krishna says those who don't surrender. 4 classes of persons who don't surrender to Krishna. They are, first of all, what's described as the grossly foolish. They're called mudas, grossly foolish. So the typical example is that of an ass or a donkey, because we don't see it. So in South Africa, you see it actually sometimes. You see horses or donkeys pulling a scrap merchant's cart, because in South Africa, where I am, there's quite a lot of poverty still. But in India, you definitely see it. You know, the donkey or the ass is working very hard for his master. My spiritual master, who grew up in Calcutta, he said, as a boy, I can remember seeing a bundle of washing walking along the street. There's so much washing on the donkey that you can't see the donkey. There's so much washing. And then India also, they carry bricks, very heavy load actually. They have a double bag on either side of their back, and they carry bricks in it. So the ass works very, very hard. And the ass is thinking to himself that if I don't work hard for my master, then I won't get a handful of straw to eat at the end of the day. But actually, the thing which the ass is thinking about, that from its master he's going to get straw or grass, the grass is growing everywhere. But the stupid ass is thinking, no, I must work very hard for my master or he'll beat me and I won't get grass. So there's a very famous proverb, or you could say it's a riddle, particularly among Bengalis. This is very famous. They say, you know, the ass, he becomes very fat in the summertime when when the grass dries up, and it becomes very thin after monsoon, when all the grass is growing very lush, like that. So can anyone solve this conundrum? How is it that the ass is thinking like this? That in the summertime, when all the grass is dried up and it goes brown, the ass becomes very fat. And then after monsoon, when there's so much grass, then the ass becomes very thin. So you're all intelligent ladies and gentlemen. Can anyone solve this conundrum? I say it's a conundrum when it's difficult to work out. They say it's a conundrum. Okay, I'll explain for you. You see, in the summertime, there's no grass. It's all dried up. So the ass is thinking, wow, there's no grass. I must have eaten it all. So then it becomes very fat. And then after monsoon season, there's so much grass. The ass is thinking to himself, well, there's so much grass, I haven't eaten anything. So he becomes very thin. So the ass is especially famous for being foolish, not very intelligent. No. So the foolish worker is like that. They work very hard. They work very, very hard for Krishna, and they only get to enjoy a very small portion of that work. And they sometimes work all night and all day. They get ulcers, you know, they neglect their families. They work so hard. And the result of that, which is coming, is very, very small. And they're so busy working, they don't want to hear about Krishna. No, I have no time, they tell you. If you stop them in the street and try and give them a book, they say, no, I'm sorry, I'm very busy. I don't have time. So this is the grossly foolish. Then they're called Muda in the verse, actually. Then there's Naradamaha, actually. Nara Adama, actually. Those who are the lowest among mankind. They're generally, it's described that these people don't follow life which is guided by the religious principles. They may be socially and politically developed, but they have no religious principles. And therefore their lives are just oriented in the direction of more and more sense gratification. They don't realize actually that the goal of life is to actually return home back to Godhead. So they reject the teachings of the Veda, actually. They actually put that one side. They don't live a regulated life according to the instruction of the Veda. So they're actually the lowest among mankind. And often, even if they come into contact with the process of Krishna consciousness, they will reject it on purpose, actually. No? So these are the lowest among mankind. Then we have those that are called Maya Parita Jnana. The Jnana, they have knowledge. Aprita, though, it is stolen by illusion. Prabhupada says they're generally intelligent persons like scientists and philosophers and these kind of people. They're very smart, but because they don't have any interest in spiritual things, their knowledge is stolen by illusion. So they're generally those who have all kinds of theories about how Krishna can't appear on the earth, or if he does, he just must be an ordinary man. Like they have all kinds of theories. Their knowledge is stolen by illusion. And then the fourth kind are called Ashram Bhavam Ashritaha, those who actually take shelter of the atheistic nature of demons. They're openly atheistic. They say there is no God, or if there is a God, he's just an impersonal energy. So these are the four kinds of persons. They're generally very, they're not only atheistic, but they propagate atheistic understanding. They say God doesn't exist, or if he did exist, then he just wound up the universe and he's gone away. They're openly atheistic. So these are the four kinds of persons who never surrender to Krishna. And then in the next verse, today's verse, so this way I've given some background, connection, a flowing, because Bhagavad Gita flows from verse to verse. Themes are developed, different ideas are developed. Krishna is explaining how he's present everywhere. So if he's present everywhere and he's maintaining everything, why don't we surrender to him? We should actually, but we don't because we can't see him because he's covered by the material nature. But Krishna says, if you surrender to me, the whole thing becomes very easy. So then the discussion, those who don't surrender, and now in today's verse, those that do surrender. So I say, you say. I know it's only a small group, but still it's very nice to repeat Krishna's words, actually. Chaturvidya bhajante mam.
Chaturvidha bhajante mam.
Jana sukritino jana.
Jana sukrito.
Ato jigna suratati. Yani cha bharata shama. So chaturvidya, four kinds. Four kinds. So we do the word for word. Chaturvidaha.
Chaturvidaha.
Four kinds.
Four kinds.
Four kinds of. Bhajante.
Bhajante.
Render services.
Render
services.
Mam.
Unto me.
Unto me.
Janaha.
Janaha.
Persons. Sukritinaha.
Sukritinaha.
Those who are pious.
Those who are pious.
Arjuna.
Arjuna.
O Arjuna. Artaha. The distressed.
The distressed.
Jignasahu. The inquisitive.
The inquisitive.
Artati.
Artha.
One who desires material gains.
One who desires
Sorry, I pronounced that wrong. It should be Arta-Ati. Arta-Ati. My apologies for that. Those who desire material gain.
One who desires material gain.
Jnani.
Jnani.
One who knows things as they are.
One who knows
things as they are.
Cha.
Cha.
Also.
Also.
Bharata Rishabhaha.
Bharata Rishabha,
O great one amongst the descendants of Bharata.
O great one amongst the descendants of Bharata.
So we're going to read the translation. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So we can repeat, best among the Bharatas.
O best
O
among
best among the Bharatas.
4 kinds of men,
4 kinds of pious
4 kinds of pious men. Apologize for
Four
that.
kinds of pious men
men.
Begin to render devotional service unto me:
begin to
Begin
render
to render devotional service unto me.
the distressed,
the
The
distress,
distressed,
the desirer of wealth,
the
the
desire,
desire of wealth,
the inquisitive,
the
the
inquisitive,
inquisitive,
and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute.
and he who's searching of knowledge of the absolute.
So we should note in this verse that Krishna says, begin to render devotional service. So these personalities are simply pious. They're not pure devotees, but they turn to Krishna under different circumstances. Like when we're distressed, if you're a pious person, it's natural to call out to God when you're in distress, when there's sickness, when there's some kind of calamity, when we lose a family member. It's very natural to call out to Krishna when we're in distress. Desire of wealth, someone is poverty stricken. It's also, if pious, it's naturally to call, oh my dear Lord Krishna, please, I'm so poverty stricken, my children are hungry, please supply what I need. No? The inquisitive, those who want knowledge, actually. If we're inquisitive, it means we want knowledge. So these 3 all want something. They're approaching Krishna, they may begin to render devotional service, but they want something. So their devotional service is mixed. Actually, it's mixed with a desire for fruitive gain of different kinds. And then there's the inquisitive, one who wants knowledge, actually. He wants something. You know? And then last, there is the one who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. He also wants something, but the thing is, his searching for knowledge of the absolute is in line with the process of devotional service. So he's a little different from the others. So we're going to read the purport and we're going to discuss a little bit. Unlike the miscreants, Prabhupada uses this word for those who are against or want to ignore Krishna. They want to ignore him, or they denigrate him, or they're against him. They're atheistic. They're called miscreants. It's kind of an old-fashioned English word for not such a good person. Someone is impious. These are the adherents to the regulative principles of the scriptures. So that these kinds of persons are basically pious. You know, that they're told something in the scripture and they think, okay, well, it's coming from the scripture, so we should follow. And they're called Sukritina, for those who obey the rules and regulations of the scripture, moral and social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. So more or less they believe in God in one form or another, no? And to a large extent, they follow the direction of the scripture, so they're pious. Out of these, there are 4 classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after knowledge of the absolute. Prabhupada said sometimes because it's not complete. You know, they may search and they may go away. They may search a little bit more and they may go away. So all these classes of persons that are being discussed here, they begin to render. They may come, they may go like that. But devotional service is so nice that if we begin, then there's no loss. Krishna was telling us in 2nd chapter, actually, that one who starts this process, there is no loss or diminution. And a little advancement on this path can save one from the most dangerous type of fear. So we may do a little in this lifetime, and then we may go away, or may come back and do some more. We may not do any more in this lifetime, but in the next lifetime, we'll begin from where we left off. So this is why Krishna says they begin, because nothing is lost. So these persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. You know, it's like a bargaining. But I'll serve you if you solve my material problems. It's like a business deal. So it's not pure devotional service. We're seeing a minute, Prabhupada is quoting a verse from Rupa Goswami, which is the definition of pure devotional service. We'll come in a minute. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. They want something. So on that basis, it's a bit like a business deal. You know, you work for your employer. Why do you do that? Because you love your employer so much that you want to work for him. Isn't it?
No.
You take your artist set in the morning and when you go to work, you worship. No. Oh, for instance, Kartika's shaking her head very, very seriously like this. No, it's a business deal. We only work for our boss because he pays us at the end of the month. And even then, we don't like him so much often, no? Or we want to be in his position, or we wish somebody else was in that position. It's kind of like that. No? So these not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill, you know? They want something. They want to be relieved of their material distress. They want money or they want knowledge. So they're actually a class of personality that we call Mishra Bhaktas. They're Bhaktas to some extent, but their devotional service is mixed. So they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit, because that's real love. Actually, real love means I'm not really interested so much in what I want, but I'm interested in what the beloved wants. We see that especially in this world, especially between mother and child, that the mother actually, even the child is kicking, or the child is, they're changing the nappy and the child wheezes all over them. No, even still, under those circumstances, the child is naughty, the child kicks, does so many things. The mother still loves the child, actually. It's said in the scripture that a good mother, she sees the feces of the child like sandalwood paste, because there is so much love. Of course, that may raise some eyebrows among the ladies of today, but that is how much love. So this is the nearest thing we get to true love, that the mother loves the child unconditionally. Even the child is a bad boy at school or goes off the rails, still that mother loves the child. So that's unconditional love. That is what's required for devotional service. That is real love, that we're not interested in what we want, but we're only interested in what Krishna wants. And therefore, Prabhupada quotes this verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is called the Nectar of Devotion. Because when we study Bhagavad Gita, mostly we are hearing verses which are on the platform of Sambandha Gyan. There are three, every verse in the scripture can be put into one of three boxes. The boxes are called Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya, and Prayojan. Sambandha Gyan means those things which are in the scripture which teach us that we need a relationship with the Supreme Personality Godhead. Sambandha Gyan. Gyan means knowledge. Sambandha means to bring together. So those verses which teach us that, you know what, we need a relationship with Krishna because he's the Supreme Creator and he's controlling everything. So mostly the verses in the Bhagavad Gita are on the platform of Sambandha Gyan. Krishna is trying to bring us to the platform where we say, okay, Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. So you know what? I'm going to try and surrender to Krishna as well, because Arjuna is such a great personality. He did it, then I should do it. And Krishna is explaining so wonderfully why we should do that. So this is mostly what Bhagavad Gita is about. But there are some verses which talk about the next category. That is called Abhideya. Because if there's a relationship, then there's an exchange. That I do some things and Krishna does some things. So if I need a relationship, how do I form that relationship? What do I have to do? So there is a process. It is called the process of devotional service. So the process of devotional service is explained very nicely in this book, The Ocean of Devotional Service, the Nectar of Devotion. Because when we perform devotion to Krishna, we get back a most wonderful feeling, which is like an ocean of nectar, actually. So therefore, Rupa Goswami is discussing this Abhideya, especially in the Nectar of Devotion. And then last, there is something called Prayojan. Because if we form the relationship properly, then there's a goal, what we come to. Some verses in Bhagavad Gita touch on that. Krishna says, for instance, that in this place, which we call the spiritual world, there's no need for fire or moon or electricity or light of the sun, because it's self-luminous. He says, if you go to that place, you'll never return. So some indication is given of Prayojan, the spiritual world. Some discussion is given about the path. Just always engage your mind in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer your obeisances to me and worship me. Being fully absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. But mostly the verses are Sambandha Gyan, that look, you're a living entity, I'm the Supreme Lord, you need a relationship with me. So eventually one must come to the platform. If one wants to get out of this material world, one must come to the platform of pure devotional service. Pure devotional service means nothing for me and everything for Krishna. And that is actually our natural position. We become an addict of the material nature. We're all material junkies. So we have to learn to get out of that, actually. So that this verse, which Srila Prabhupada has quoted here from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is our goal in terms of our practice. What should our practice be like? So this is the verse. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 defines pure devotional service thus. Anyabilashita sunyam Gana Kamidinavratam, Anukulena Krishnanu, Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. So it's a very nice definition. 4 things are explained in this verse. 4 things which must be present for the devotional service to be pure. And then actually we get the most wonderful ananda, this most wonderful nectar of devotional service when we do that. So one should, Prabhupada is paraphrasing the translation here. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord favorably. For instance, there are those who think of Krishna, but it's not favorable. They're thinking of Krishna all the time. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 9th chapter, we haven't come to that yet, he says, engage your mind in thinking of me. So you can do that favorably, or you can do it unfavorably. Like, for instance, this personality, Kamsa, he was always thinking of Krishna. Ever since that prophecy was there, the eighth son of this sister of yours is going to kill you. So from that time, he was always thinking of Krishna, actually. But he was thinking of him as Krishna as my enemy. He's going to come and kill me. So that can't be counted as pure devotional service if we're thinking of Krishna unfavorably. So one must render devotional loving service to Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit like that. We mustn't be thinking, okay, one for me and one for Krishna. One for me and one for you, maybe 2 for me and 1 for Krishna, like that. But rather everything for Krishna. That is actually pure love. Pure love is when we do everything for the beloved. And in this case, actually, there's so much wonderful reciprocation if we do that. So without desires for profit, material gain, or through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation, trying to figure things out with our own brain. Maybe it's like this and maybe it's like that. Maybe I want liberation like this, not covered by that desire for liberation or to enjoy the material nature with the exchange. I'll be your devotee and you give me material opulence like that, or yogic siddhis or anything like that. Some people, they say, I'll become your devotee, but you give me mystic siddhis so I can become lighter than air. I can walk on the water and get lots of adoration and money from the general public. Not like that. Not for the desire for material enjoyment or philosophical speculation or the desire for liberation or mystic siddhis. So it should be pure, not covered by those things. That is called pure devotional service, rendered favorably as Krishna desires, all the time, uninterrupted, actually. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam which says that. This pure devotional service actually should be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to satisfy the self. So that is who we really are. So this is the definition. So when you see the definition, you can understand that these 4 classes of personalities who begin to render service to Krishna, they're not pure. But if they begin to render service to Krishna, they may come in contact with a pure devotee. Like we have come in contact with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is explaining so nicely how to render this devotional service. If we follow the instructions, we can become a pure devotee. That is amazing, actually. So this Anyabhidesha to Shunyam, one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Bhakti Uttama. Uttama means the topmost. The topmost bhakti is pure devotional service. That is what we are aiming for in this movement that Srila Prabhupada has started. Srila Prabhupada wants everyone to become pure devotee and go back to Godhead. One time Srila Prabhupada was asked, how many pure devotees do you have? And Prabhupada turned to his secretary and said, how many initiated disciples do we have? So Prabhupada considered that anyone who's properly performing their devotional service, initiated like that, is actually a pure devotee. They may be like a green mango now, but if the green mango stays on the tree, what will happen to it? It'll become ripe. Eventually it'll become ripe. So that's how Prabhupada has explained. If we follow this process which Prabhupada has given, we may be green mango now. So what is green mango like? Do you know? Some people like it with salt and chili powder. They like to, or they like to make green mango chutney. You find green mangoes are popular in the marketplace because everyone like to grate them up and have them with chili powder and salt, or they like to make green mango chutney, which is one of the most wonderful preparations you can think of. So green mango is sour. So when we're practicing devotional service, we're becoming pure, we may be sour in the beginning, but eventually we will become sweet like a mango. But in the beginning, we may be a little bit sour. You know, our interactions with other devotees are not so sweet or a bit sour. But if we stay on the tree, if we continue to practice the process, we'll become sweet like a mango, pure devotee. So when these four, I'm reading from the purport now. When these four kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, like Srila Prabhupada. Now we can ask the question, how do we know that Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee? That is an intelligent question, actually. This ISKCON movement is there. We are claiming that Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee. How can we back up that claim? Well, we can say that Srila Prabhupada did something very special. He took this culture from India. He transplanted it into America intact without losing anything. And then promptly in the space of 10 years, he spread it all over the world. That is the proof that Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee. No one has ever done anything like that. Christ spread it in Palestine. Muhammad spread it in Saudi Arabia and places like in the desert like that. And eventually these religious systems spread all over the world. Christianity took about 2,000 years. Islam took about 1,500. But no one has ever spread religious culture all over the world in 10 years. But that is what Srila Prabhupada did. And Srila Prabhupada has left his legacy. When we read Bhagavad Gita and we study Srila Prabhupada's purports, we are associating with a pure devotee. So this is what he's saying here. When these four kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service, and they are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee. So that is what we have. Srila Prabhupada once said, if you want to know me, you read my books. Srila Prabhupada is present in his books. He's present in his deity form. If you go to our temples, you can feel that. There are so many stories of people who come to our temple for the first time, and they look at the deity of Prabhupada, and they come and tell us afterwards. They say, you know, is he real? I kept thinking he's going to get up any minute and come and talk to me. And when they come close to the deity, they feel Srila Prabhupada's presence. So this is a pure devotee. And we get the chance to associate with Prabhupada through his deity, through his books, through his disciples, through his discourses and lectures. There's so many ways we can associate with a pure devotee so that we can become a pure devotee. This is what Prabhupada is saying in the purport. When these four kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service, and they're completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. When we become pure devotees, no more trouble. We'll wake up from the dream of this material nature, and we'll go back to Godhead when we leave the body. As far as the miscreants are concerned, that's the last verse, four kinds of miscreants. For them, devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. Actually, life is meant for spiritual goals. It's not meant, actually, for material enjoyment. Material enjoyment rather deviates us. Life is not meant for material enjoyment. Some material enjoyment will come, that's true. And it will go also. And some material suffering will come and go. That is what life is actually meant for, something else. Human being is actually fashioned, as the Bible says, that the Lord made man in his own image. We are fashioned in Krishna's image, 2 arms, 2 legs. Why? Because it's a very special life form. It is only through this life form that one can go back to Godhead. And therefore Krishna has fashioned it after his own form. It's very, very special. Human life is meant for religious advancement, so we can go back to the spiritual world. But even some of them, by chance, I was talking about the miscreants now, but even some of them, the miscreants, by chance, when they come into contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. That happens, actually. When we're out on the street performing Harinam Kirtan, or we're distributing books or prasadam, as a result of those activities, or someone comes in contact with a devotee, and initially they're not very favorable, but that devotee is very merciful and pursues them a little bit and tries to get them to take a book or has a discussion with them. As a result of that contact, even they can become devotees. Srila Prabhupada had that vision, actually. He wanted everyone to become a devotee, not just the pious ones, but also the impious ones. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared for that purpose, actually. It said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't care whether you're qualified or you're not qualified. He doesn't care, actually. He's just distributing love of Godhead to anyone who'll take it. The only qualification is we have to want to receive it. That's the only qualification that's required. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't consider who's qualified and who's not. And Prabhupada is propagating that. This is not just for people in Indian bodies. It's not some kind of Indian club. No, it's meant for everybody, actually, wherever. Like when Prabhupada first came to Africa, he came to Nairobi, actually. I don't remember the year. I think it might have been 1975. Came to Nairobi, and the devotees arranged a program. And of course, those of you that are like, where is he, Shashvin and Kumar are living in Kenya. So now there's Indians everywhere. Wherever you go, they're all over the world. So they invited all the Indians to come to the program in Nairobi, and Prabhupada was a little cross. He said, we're in Africa. Where are all the Africans? He said, if I want to preach to Indians, I can go to India. But I'm in Africa now, so where are all the Africans? I want to preach to them. So Prabhupada wanted everyone to get this, actually, and that is our mood as the followers of Srila Prabhupada. We want to distribute this wonderful knowledge which Srila Prabhupada has so nicely presented through the Guru Parampara to everybody, actually, every single person on the face of this planet. Okay, so by even the miscreants, if they come into contact with the devotees, by chance, so-called, by chance, in inverted commas, they will come in contact with a pure devotee. They also become pure devotees, so everyone can get this. Those who are always busy with fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress. Oh, my dear Krishna, oh, I'm sick now. You please cure me. You please save me from this calamity, whatever it is. No? People pray like that for relief from distress. And at the same time, associated pure devotees become in their distress devotees of the Lord. That's natural, no? In their distress, they become a devotee. Oh, my dear Lord, please help me. Let me do something for you. And in return, you please help me. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with the pure devotees and become inquisitive about God. They're frustrated with life. They're frustrated about different kinds of religious processes which can't answer their questions. They're frustrated trying to squeeze what they want out of the material nature. And out of frustration, they come and talk to the devotees. So what are you saying? What is your understanding? Like that, they become inquisitive. Who are these Hare Krishnas? I know I was like that. These people, there's something weird about these people. Who are these people? And the more you question, you think, wow, there's something going on here. These funny people with shaved heads wearing bed sheets. There's something amazing going on here. So you become inquisitive. You start to ask questions and become inquisitive to know about God. So your devotees, you're saying your devotees, so what's your understanding of God? And they open their mouth and they talk, and the most wonderful philosophy comes out. And you think, wow, this is amazing. One thing I found about the devotees is you can go to them with any question. You can come with any question you like, and they've got an answer, and it sounds pretty good. That was my experience of the devotees. You can come with any answer. UFOs, ghosts, goblins, you name it. They can answer any question. Who is God? Where does he live? What's his telephone number? You can ask them all these things, and they know. It's really amazing, actually. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, maybe it's like this, and maybe it's like they're searching out, trying to find different kinds of knowledge. When they become frustrated, they sometimes want to learn about God unless they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service, and thus transcend knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. Because if you're searching, that's what you come to. You come to Krishna's external feature. Krishna's effulgence, the bodily effulgence of Lord Krishna. And everyone thinks, wow, this is the spiritual nature. But it isn't really, it's just the touch of the spiritual nature. So these philosophers, they may come to that. They may come to the impersonal Brahman. So then they want to know. Thus they transcend knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma and come to the personal conception of Godhead by the grace of the Lord or his pure devotee. He may reveal himself, especially through devotees. Krishna reveals himself through the devotees. On the whole, when the distressed, the inquisitive, and seekers of knowledge, and those who are in need of money, are freed from all material desires, because by coming in contact with a pure devotee, that's what happens, or by beginning to render devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee, we become purified of our material desires. The best example is a personality called Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was just a little boy of 5 years old, and he wanted to sit on his father's lap. And the father was kind of indifferent to that desire. He had two wives, actually. One was the pet wife, and the other one was very much playing second fiddle. You know, there's that expression, playing second fiddle. You're not the leader of the orchestra, you're playing second fiddle. So that favorite wife told Dhruva, who was just such a little boy, told him, if you want to sit on your father's lap, you have to take birth in my womb. Because he was so henpecked. He was so much under the control of that favorite wife. So he was a Kshatriya boy. He got very upset, actually. And in tears, he went to his mother and explained what had happened. And she told him that the not so favorite wife told the boy that, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Suniti. She told Dhruva that, I'm sorry to tell you, it's the truth, you know. It's just the way it is, and we can't have everything the way you want it. You just have to accept it. So then he cried and cried and cried, and he said, is there anyone who can help me with this? So then Suniti said, well, it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maybe he can help you. Vishnu, he can help you with that, maybe. So then he said, well, where do I find Vishnu? And she said, if you go to meditate in the forest and you'll find Vishnu. So he went off into the forest and began to meditate like that. And actually Narada Muni took pity on him. First he went to him and said, what are you doing? You're just such a small boy in the forest. Some wild animal may come and eat you up. Why? What are you doing here? Like, you should just go home. So he was so determined, actually, that Narada Muni gave him a mantra. And after 6 months, he got the darshan of Lord Vishnu by chanting that mantra in 6 months. And when he got the darshan, he realized that, because actually what he wanted, why he went to forest meditate, he wanted a kingdom which would be so great, would be greater than his father's. Actually, he wanted a kingdom greater than his grandfather's. His great-grandfather, actually, and great-grandfather is Lord Brahma. He's the ruler of the whole universe. He wanted a kingdom bigger than that. And when he got the darshan of the Supreme Lord, he realized what a stupid idiot I was, you know. I was looking for diamonds, and actually what it was is pieces of glass. Like that. So this is what happens. We want material, and gradually, through the performance of devotional service, or come in contact with a pure devotee, we become purified of those desires. Then we become pure devotees. So this is what this movement is all about. We want to reach out to as many people as possible and give them the chance to associate with Srila Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee, and to render devotional service. It may be mixed in the beginning. Kama Mishra Bhakti, mixed. Mishra means mixed. Kama Mishra Bhakti, mixed with a desire to enjoy the material nature. Or Jnana Mishra Bhakti, mixed with a desire for knowledge or liberation. Or Yoga Mishra Bhakti, I want mystic cities. You do find some of those people, actually. We become purified of all those mishras, all that mixed devotional service. We come to the platform of pure devotional service, and we go back to the spiritual world. So this is what this movement is all about. We want everyone to come and become a pure devotee. Okay, so a little bit of the purport left. On the whole, when the distressed, inquisitive seekers of knowledge and those who are in need of money are freed from all material desires, and when they fully understand that material remuneration, has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. In other words, after some time of practicing devotional service, we get the idea this material nature and everything associated with it is just a waste of time. It's such a waste of time, actually. Just like we studied that in the 5th chapter, in the 22nd verse. No? Those actually, the sages, they realize that these material miseries are actually a waste of time. They have a pleasure as a beginning and it has an end, and therefore I don't want to associate with that. Rather, the devotees are the real pleasure seekers. They want 100% wall-to-wall enjoyment all day long, not this paltry enjoyment you get in the material world. So, so when they understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become devotees, pure devotees. They give it up. After some time, that's what happens. We give it up. As long as such purified stage is not attained, and that's why we're still practicing our devotional service, which is mixed with something, the desire to enjoy the material nature, the desire for knowledge or liberation, or the desire for power and mystic cities, devotees in transcendental service of the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, search for mundane knowledge, etc. It's covered. It's mixed together. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. But luckily for us, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada have made it so easy for us, actually. We follow certain practices. We chant the holy name of the Lord. We give up performance of sinful activities. We take Krishna prasadam. We associate with the devotees of Krishna. We perform devotional service. And we do that, we can go back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime. So Prabhupada has made it so easy for us to step off the platform of a Mishra Bhakta, because every one of us which is attracted to the deity, to the devotees, to scripture, we're all pious actually. But now we want to become pure devotees, so we can get out of this material world and go back to Godhead. So you may recognize yourself in this verse. 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. You might recognize yourself in this verse, but it doesn't matter. Krishna doesn't care why you come to him. He just wants to give you an opportunity to become a pure devotee and go back to his lotus feet. Okay, so I'll stop here, and I wonder if anyone has comment or question or realization. You may recognize yourself in this verse. There's nothing on the chat, so I'm hoping the chat has
Hare
got.
Krishna.
Hi, Krishna Vishal, how are you?
It's Vishal. I'm sorry, I'm driving to get my children some takeaway, but I've been listening as much as I can, so I couldn't raise my hand. I just wanted to share partly realization and partly what you were talking about today.
Fabulous.
And one of the things was what you talked about when Krishna describes, you know, who he is. You said the taste in water, and then I really focused on the ability of man,
Yes.
you know, in my last week, and then combine that with that verse on fix your mind on me, be devoted to me, see me everywhere, pay obeisance to me. And then, you know, focusing on material nature. So what I kind of realized is, and also your story, you know, on what you described earlier about for the person who is absorbed in Krishna, it doesn't matter whether he lives or dies.
Yeah, sure. Remember that was the sage who was giving blessings to different people.
You know, it doesn't matter whether you're in this world or the next. So when you focus on all that, then you can actually, I felt anyway, this is my realization, that if you completely let go and keep reminding yourself of that, then Krishna starts working through you, and then you can experience him in the ability of man, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Whenever we look at anything and we see someone has great ability, you can understand Krishna's behind that.
And so when you describe Srila Prabhupada, you know, his ability was, you could see the ability was incredible, you know, spreading the word across in 10 years across the globe. Then you can see that Krishna has to be working through that.
Krishna's instrument. Srila Prabhupada is literally Krishna's instrument. And when Krishna uses an instrument, if you're pure, he can do the most amazing things, actually. Krishna likes to work through his devotees. We make a small scale, actually. You know, we may find
you actually feel it, even on a small scale over the past few weeks, little things you think, how did that happen? And you can then realize I wasn't doing that, you know, and it's I don't know if it makes sense, but you know,
it makes a lot of sense.
When you do connect, you can feel the connection. And when you disconnect, you can feel the disconnect as well. So I just wanted to share that.
That's so nice, Vishal. Thank you very much. Wonderful.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I hope you enjoy your supper.
Yeah, I'm just at the restaurant now to pick up. It's getting food for the kids.
Yeah, okay. I hope you enjoy your supper.
Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Comment, question, or realization?
Prabhuji, till people are thinking of a question, they are doing manana of what you have said, probably.
Okay, they're thinking.
I,
Yeah.
I just wanted clarification. So the first three types, the distress, the desire of wealth, and inquisitive, I understood were asking things for
Yes, they all want
in
something.
exchange. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fourth one, searching for knowledge of the absolute, is still asking for something, is searching for something and asking for the knowledge, but it is of a higher grade
Yes.
than the three.
Yes.
So,
Actually, in the next few verses, Krishna is going to describe how he sees that fourth one. The fourth one is different, actually. And in the verses that follow, Krishna is going to describe how wonderful that fourth one is and how dear that fourth one is to Krishna. You'll see in the verse which is coming up. The fourth one is different. He wants knowledge of the absolute, but we should want knowledge of the absolute. That's what we should be doing. So Krishna says that one is very dear to me, actually. Very, very dear. Because they're going to go back quicker than the rest of us.
that's right, Prabhuji. So that's the clarification I was sorting.
Okay. Is that all right, Kirtika?
And yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much. And like Vishal, I was also this week looking out for the taste of water.
Okay.
I didn't taste the water, but I tasted everything, like from the capsicum to the tomato to the salad. I didn't put any salt or anything. And I said, let me taste Krishna.
Let me taste Krishna. You remember we
And
did
I
that?
understand. And I mean, it's the same food that I ate every day
Yeah.
before. And I haven't gone shopping, so it's the same food. But this
That's
time,
it.
I really could taste the difference.
Searching for Krishna. Yeah, because Krishna says in the verse we studied before, the 9th verse, I'm the original fragrance of the earth.
Mhm.
Original fragrance of the earth is manifest in everything we eat in different ways. No?
Yes, yes, yes.
Meditation, the taste of water, and whatever these vegetables and fruits are tasting like, that is Krishna, the original fragrance of the earth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're nice meditations, actually. Krishna wants us to take up these meditations
Yeah.
so that we can think of him always
Yeah.
and always pure devotees. So it's very nice that you're sharing like this. Thank you very much.
It's like living in the moment. I mean,
Yes.
we eat our food watching the TV or doing other things. I'm
Yeah.
sipping my herbal tea in between various things that I'm doing. But I think this meditation really made me live in that moment and taste,
Yes.
stop.
Actually, that's the spiritual world, Kirtika. In the spiritual world, there is no past and there is no future. Do you know why?
Because you are living in the moment. You are
Yes, because everyone is so focused in the moment that there's no ability left over to think about the past and the future. There's no past and future in the spiritual world. It is just now, because everyone is so absorbed in Lord Krishna. No
so
past.
then there is no multitasking. You are just there.
No, you can multitask. You can definitely multitask, but it's all now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all now. Everything's now in the spiritual world because Krishna is just so absorbing. Beautiful, so absorbing. We just completely get lost. No past, no future. Some nice realizations, Kirtika. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I so much appreciate that. So, is there anyone else who would like to share with us or ask question or share realization?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Pramila.
Thank you. It's always so lovely to listen to your discourse. I wanted to ask you, I'm reading the Bhagavatam at the moment. I attend classes as well. And it is it's always been such a blissful feeling that, I really call it my bestseller because I
Okay.
love it so much. But, when I chant, when I do my chanting, it's a different sort of feeling. It's not this, it's that bliss isn't the same as reading the Bhagavatam. Can you tell me why? Am I doing something wrong?
No, well, you may be doing something wrong, but it's a problem we all have, actually. You You see, the Bhagavatam is directly Krishna. That's the first thing to understand. The first 2 cantos are his lotus feet. The 3rd and 4th cantos are his thighs. The 5th canto is his abdomen. The 6th canto is his chest. The 7th and 8th cantos are his arms. The 9th canto is his neck. The 10th canto is his smiling face. The 11th canto is his forehead. And the 12th canto is the crown on his head. So the Bhagavatam is directly Krishna. So when we're studying, that's why we feel bliss, because we are directly interacting with Krishna. Now, when we chant our japa, we may not be as focused as we should be, because also the holy name of Krishna is Krishna directly. But in order to get that understanding, we must be focused. We mustn't drift. We mustn't think of other things. And also, we can't commit offenses to the holy name while we're doing that. So you may not have the same feeling because you're not focused. Maybe your mind is drifting to other things. Or maybe you're committing one or more of those 10 offenses. Premela, do you know what the 10 offenses are?
I vaguely remember them, Prabhu, yes.
So what I would ask you to do is wherever you are, Google the 10 offenses. It's actually written in purports in the Bhagavatam as well, but Google the 10 offenses to chant the holy name of the Lord and study them.
Yes.
One is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for the propagation of the holy name of the Lord.
Mhm.
And it goes on. There are 10 offenses. Not going to do it all now because it will take up too much time. But the idea is I want you to study these offenses and see, are you doing any of them? If we commit those offenses, then the holy name won't manifest to us fully. Or if our mind wanders, what's for breakfast? Oh yeah, what that person did to me at work. What do the children, so many things our minds will drift to. So we have to gently pull the mind back and tell it, my dear mind, you please listen to the nice chanting of this holy name with your heart, not just with your ears. Listen with your heart. If you try these things, I'm expecting that your chanting will improve. So when you chant, sit somewhere where you're comfortable, where there are no distractions. No, if you can, chant in the morning, because it's a better time in the mode of goodness, no? And then really focus, just listening to the sweet sound of Krishna's names. And if your mind drifts, bring it back. You say, my dear mind, you be like Raghunath Das Goswami used to pray to his mind like that. My dear mind, don't be a nonsense. Come and listen to this chanting of the holy name of the Lord like that. So this is my advice. You try these things and let's see what happens. And you can report back to me how it works for you if you get any improvement. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, you must report back to me, no?
I will.
Is there anything else, my dear devotees?
Any other questions or comments?
Or comments or realizations? We got such nice realizations tonight. So nice. Okay, looks like not. Smita, aren't you going to say anything to me? Mother Smita?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My obeisances to you, Prabhuji.
And mine to you also. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you.
That's good. I'm very glad to hear that. No realizations, Smita.
Well, there is one. It's very personal.
Sure. Oh, okay. Okay, you don't have to share on the group if it's very personal. I understand that. Some things are shared and some things are very personal. But we're very happy to know that you're getting realizations. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can dissolve then, Kirtika, isn't it?
Yes, let's chant the holy name. Everybody, can you please unmute yourselves and let's chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai,
Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Jai
Jai,
Krishna Das Prabhuji ki jai.
Jai
Vancha kalpatarubhyash
Vanja kalpatarubhyasya kirpa sindhu Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.